Okay, I want to do another video reminding us of how we are actually physically ascending right now. How are we physically evolving into higher states of consciousness? So I'm editing a chapter in my book and I'm diving deep into how this works. And here's what's happening. The way you evolve, the way you move into, experience, be higher states of consciousness is through your physical body. That's why we call this the physical ascension. So you are simultaneously moving deeper into your body, embodying this physicality, while at the exact same time courageously and boldly feeling, consciously feeling all densities in your body that are no longer vibrating at the frequency that your physical body is holding. So I'm going to explain this. I'm going to break it down. From the moment we dropped into the human form incarnated, we experienced traumas. A trauma is any external experience that we had that created uncomfortable emotions, beliefs, thoughts, behaviors that we didn't allow ourselves to feel completely through the body, which then allowed those consciousnesses to store within our body. We call that trauma. It's inside the body somewhere. It creates stress, it creates cancers, it creates disease, it creates physical ailments. It's really just energy from an external that nestled inside the body because it was uncomfortable for us to feel completely through. So what happens is that these consciousnesses build up over time, and as we naturally move through the evolution or ascension process, our bodies begin to hold more frequency, more light, higher frequencies. And what happens is that these consciousnesses that we have called traumas, they're in a lower frequency. They are denser. And so the natural process of this evolution in human consciousness, ascension, physical ascension, is that these densities, these traumas that we never fully experienced, have to be felt and have to be experienced. And the only way to experience them is to feel them, to acknowledge them, to hear them, to see them. And that alone is how they literally dissolve or move through you, which opens up more space for your body to continue to hold higher frequencies. And the more your body continues to hold higher frequencies, the more it is able, or the more easily it is able to anchor your physical form into the next highest dimensional field, the fourth, and then the fifth. So the process here is that we are going to eventually be anchored in a completely different dimensional field. And yet we will be looking out at multiple dimensional fields, a third, a fourth, and a fifth. So depending upon what dimensional field your body has anchored down into, that will create your reality, your states of consciousness. But you will also be in a third and fourth dimensional field. You'll be able to see the third and fourth dimensional field. You'll be able to walk outside and see these other dimensional fields. But your reality is based on your frequency, which is based on what dimensional field your body has anchored. So right now, many of us are still anchored in a third dimensional field, which means that our states of consciousness most of our states of consciousness will be in that third dimensional field. We will be accessing the fourth dimensional field, accessing the fifth dimensional field, which means we'll be accessing these states of consciousness from that field. But most of our reality will still be in a third dimension. And so the more that we are clearing out that density, that trauma, the more space there is for our bodies to hold the higher frequencies. And the more our bodies hold the higher frequencies, the quicker we will be anchoring, planting ourselves in the next dimensional field, the fourth and then the fifth. And as soon as we are anchored into the next dimensional field, we start becoming and being in that dimensional field. So our reality, the lens that we're using is from that dimensional field. And so more and more of your now moments become the states of consciousness in that dimensional field. Right now, many of us are going back and forth between these different dimensional fields because our bodies are holding these higher states of consciousness. And we are sort of waiting patiently until we have anchored that 5D field. When you anchor down into a 5th dimensional field, your every now moment, you are experiencing yourself in that state of consciousness. So we call those states of consciousness right now higher states of consciousness because we haven't anchored into that 5D field yet. We are accessing it. We are tapping into it. We are feeling it. We are being it more and more. But a lot of us still have the denser consciousnesses, i.e. traumas, that we are peeling back and releasing through conscious awareness. This is why it is so important to stay conscious, to be the observer, to realize there's nothing wrong with my trauma. There's nothing wrong with what I am thinking, feeling, and believing and being, because it is allowing me to consciously say, do I want to choose to feel this through me completely and release it, dissolve it, so that I can continue to anchor higher frequencies, so that I can eventually anchor myself, my physical form, into a 5D field, which is the natural process that all of us are going through. It's just a matter of linear time. This is what's happening right now. This is what we're going through. And yet what the human does is they have such an attachment, such a judgment around things. We have such an expectation around ourselves, not doing it right, not doing it fast enough, not doing it the right way, the wrong way. We're externally blaming all of these people for our experiences, etc., etc. When really this is such a beautiful natural process. It is a natural process that we're going through. The body is continuing to anchor down higher frequencies of light while you are still standing in this 3rd dimensional field, releasing your traumas by courageously and boldly observing them and allowing them to move through or dissolve just by feeling them, knowing that you are always, in every moment, given an opportunity to tap into, pull in, and be the higher states of consciousness, practicing over and over and over again until eventually your body is standing in that 5th dimensional field where we're all going. And your now moments are always in that higher state of consciousness. That's the evolution of human consciousness. That's evolution. It's what's happening naturally. It's physics. It's shifting lower to higher frequencies. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's no better than or less than. There's not a 3rd dimension isn't less or worse than 5th dimension. It's just a different state of awareness. It's just a different state of consciousness, different ways of being. We experience in the 3rd dimension as way better than a 3D frequency, right? Certain experiences or states of consciousness we experience in the 3D. But from a much higher perspective, it's not better than or worse than. It just is. So what you're experiencing right now is this continuation process of clearing out density, which is consciousnesses that are in a lower frequency than what your body is currently holding. And you are courageously and boldly recognizing, feeling, experiencing them strictly without judgment or attachment. That's the best way they move it through or dissolve. And what you're allowing is for your body to naturally continue to hold higher frequencies, naturally providing you higher states of consciousness to step into over and over and over again while you are simultaneously continuing to release that density. It's science. It's physics, not science. It's physics. That's how energy works. So how can you go about your day without beating yourself up right now, without judging yourself, without attaching to an expectation? Can you just start to allow this process to show you how it works? Allow your body to show you how it works without getting so uptight or attached or frustrated or angry. The more we can stay in this surrendered flow state, allowing all the emotions to just move through us, that this is the natural process of the human evolution and consciousness, the easier we'll be able to get through it. So again, remember, most of us, we still are physically standing, anchored in a 3D field, but we are we are always evolving so that the body will eventually stand in a 5D field. But when your body's anchored in a 5D field, it's going to look just like this. The difference is that your awareness is going to be a now moment of 5D consciousness, a now moment of 5D consciousness. You won't be going back and forth between the third dimensional and fourth dimensional consciousnesses and then the fifth dimensional consciousnesses. Your body will only be holding these 5D consciousnesses, anchored in it. When you're anchored in 5D, your body is literally purely holding 5D consciousness. Most of us right now still have 3D consciousness that we are eliminating or dissolving. No big deal. And again, there's nothing wrong with 3D consciousness, but we have to be acutely aware of how we are being, how we are feeling, how we are experiencing ourselves. We have to devour the human journey. We have to devour the human experience. We have to devour all of this and not make it right or wrong. We have to look at the shadow. We have to look at the density. We have to look at the fear, the greed, the control, the manipulation. You have to look at what you are in. You can't jump all the way over to that 5D consciousness and pretend that you're holding it when your body isn't. Because your body's going to throw you right back to that 3D matrix that it's standing in and ask you to please look at the trauma. Please look at the shadow. Please look at what's in your physical body. Nobody can bypass what we're doing here. Nobody can just instantaneously think themselves into a 5D field, into New Earth. You have to boldly look at the matrix that you're in. You have to boldly feel all the traumas that you have ever experienced, which is just consciousness dissolving. There's no easy way around this. This is all physical. This is all energy. This is all choice. And we got to look at what we're in. We got to allow everything to move through us. And we have to courageously continue to keep our eyes open and to do our best to not judge, to not attach, to try not to have expectation, and take the weight off your shoulders. You naturally are doing this. You're not doing it wrong. You're not doing it right. You're just doing it with the entire human collective. This is what we're doing. This is how we evolve. This is how we ascend. Don't be afraid of the shadow. Don't be afraid of the fear. Don't be afraid of the manipulation. Don't be afraid of the control. Don't be afraid of the mind control that's happening. The more we are afraid of it, the more that it will consume you. Instead, you stay empowered and strong, and you realize that you are just clearing, and that you are choosing, and that you are evolving, no matter what is happening in that external. Because one more thing, remember that when you are anchored in a 5D consciousness, guess what? You are still looking out at an external that is holding 3D fields, that is holding 3D consciousness. You're just experiencing your now moments through the lens of 5D consciousness, and most of us are not there yet. I love you. Thank you for going through this entire journey with me side by side. You've got this. You're a powerful being of light that knows exactly how to do this. You know exactly how to do this. Take the pressure off. Give yourself more compassion, more love, more empathy, more compassion and love and empathy for all the other humans that may not remember what's going on. And we've got this. I love you.